Hey friends, Sina here. We have a new video for you. However, we did not record an introduction for it because exciting things were happening. So here I am doing said introduction. So welcome back. Thank you for visiting the channel. Our friend Jason, who was on some time ago, walked us through his apple cider process and how he made hard cider. So today we're going to go over his process, how he did it, what ingredients he used, and we're also going to talk about a term called gushers, which is not just a candy, and I learned that in this video.
So right now, this is a hard cider I've got. It's finished fermenting. It's been fermenting for about a week. And so what it is 3 gallons of apple cider from a local farm stand. And I just literally sanitized out my fermenter, threw it in there. And then I put with a packet of Red Star cider yeast. And so all that does is it's going to sit there for another week. It'll look probably the same next week. And then I'm going to throw some priming sugar in it and bottle it up so that this way it's a carbonated cider.
What's priming sugar?
So I will show you actually. So priming sugar, all it is corn sugar. So it's dextrose.
Okay.
So sucrose is what we have as like table sugar. And so what that means to prime it is that when you want to add carbonation, like to either beer or cider, it can carbonate. Anything with that yeast in there can carbonate naturally. So what that does is that I add some corn sugar or dextrose in it. As soon as the cider or as soon as the beer, which has been finished fermenting, when that sugar hits that liquid, the yeast go absolutely crazy and start fermenting again. But then you're going to throw it in a bottle.
I just imagine
they go bananas.
They go bananas.
I just imagine these clusters of yeast going postal, like.
But it does though, because like when, and I'll tell you what. So when you throw them in a bottle and then cap it up, you're actively starting fermentation. But because there's no place for the gas to go, it drives into the cider or into the beer, and then it forces the CO2 into the liquid. And that's what causes carbonation. You can accomplish the same thing with kegging. So I haven't gone into the investment of buying a kegging system. I like the idea that I bottle condition because then I can share, I can just hand you a bottle and you're good to go rather than having to kind of bottle it, seal it, and go through that process if I want to share it. So you can do the same thing without the priming sugar, but it's called forced carbonation. So you're taking CO2 and forcing it into the beer or into the cider, which creates the carbonation. So it's either doing it naturally using sugar and the yeast or forcing it in with CO2.
Okay. So now this batch that you're making, just for those of us who, I feel like the two ciders that I think of immediately are Woodchuck and Angry Orchard. I don't know about you. But
those are the two like big ones.
I feel like those are the big ones. But if you were to compare the cider that you're making now, was this the first time that you're making cider?
Yes, this is the first time, so I have no comparison.
Okay. Well, I was gonna ask, what do you think it's gonna taste like?
From the reading that I've done, because I'm bottle conditioning it and not using a keg, I can't what's called back sweeten it. So it's kind of like there's going to be a little bit of a dryness to it. That's my assumption, because because I'm putting them in bottles, I have to be careful not to let the fermentation that activity go crazy, because then they call it like gushers. So if you over carbonate something, when it'll explode, the bottle won't explode, but it'll pop the cap off because there's too much active fermentation going on for the bottle to hold it. So when you have an over carbonated beer, right, it could be because they added too much priming sugar or they over carbonated it, so that this, and you may have too much carbonation.
It's gonna be upstairs and you're just here.
So I had that happen to me one time. I decided I still have 1 or 2 bottles left. I did an apricot IPA,
Ooh.
And it's really good. The only problem is that I added the apricots after it fermented, right? And I didn't wait long enough. So there was still active fermentation going on. And then I tried to prime it and bottle it. And it was just a little bit too much. So it's not enough to pop the top, but when I open it, it explodes everywhere. So yeah, just like that. Yeah.
Like shaking a champagne bottle and pop, kind of like that.
That is about correct. Yeah, I'll send you a video. I have a video of one of them. They're called gushers, right? Like, and I tried to counteract it by putting it in the refrigerator really cold, and that helped, but it definitely didn't help it enough to make any real big difference. Because anytime I have to make sure when I open it, I open it over like over a
shield.
Face shield, right? It's kind of like COVID, right? It's my COVID beer because it's hang on, yeah, because it's well overly carbonated. So
Windows.
yeah. Well, and as I said, like the first couple that I did, like I wasn't expecting it, and it just exploded everywhere. So you do have to be careful, right? Like, and there is a very fine line between over carbonating it and finding the right, like, the right amount.
Well, you'll have to let us know what the cider tastes like.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like as I said, I was going to if we couldn't have made the our meeting yesterday happen, like in about, let's say what it needs to carbonate for about 2 weeks. So yeah, we can do something when it's ready. I'll let you know when it's ready, and then I could do it on another thing. So another podcast. So I'm always cool with that.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for sticking around. Hope you liked our second beerology video. If you have any suggestions for beerology, or if you have any recommendations for beers, let us know. We'll check them out. Check out the podcast, Who Girls Watch TV. Check out the blog, Beer, Coffee, Donuts. And that's it. There's a new episode of the podcast out every Friday. Have a great week, guys. Take care.